Part 5. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Faye. Chapter 41. Chapter 41. Can I go out to live? Honestly speaking, with Lee Yun's brain, it can be said that he relies on his strength to commit suicide. Can still be alive and kicking today. I have to say that her vitality is also very tenacious. Is this the legendary disaster that will last 1,000 years? Forget it, saying that is a bit insulting and harmful. Originally, their family would go back to their old house every now and then to stay with me for a few days. I was very happy, but Xiaju, look at it, every time they come back, this house is in a mess. Let me see, in the future there's no need to come back. Mr. Lee's eyes were a little sad. At his age, what he wants most is to have a family full of children and grandchildren and enjoy family happiness. But this good son of his really pays too much attention to rights. He now has some doubts about whether he made a mistake in handing over the Li family to Li Hong. If his eldest son had no intention of inheriting the family business, how could he let Li Hong come? Well. Mr. Li sighed softly there, and Li Ju sat aside as a quiet listener. In the final analysis, these matters of the Li family have nothing to do with her, and it is not easy for her to interfere. Grandpa, it's very late. Staying up late is not good for your health. Cannot fall asleep. It's strange that I can fall asleep after drinking so much tea. But because Mr. Li was in a bad mood, Li Ju very considerately played a game of chess with him. After fighting for a while, Mr. Li threw the eaten chess piece into the box and said, "You girl is too murderous. You've hurt me." Li Ju pinched the black pieces and looked at the killed black pieces on the chessboard without any armor left. The corner of his mouth twitched. "Then you are still better. Look, this has blocked her escape route." Mr. Li glanced at her and said, "Isn't that because you care about the head but not the tail? It's okay to be young and energetic, but you can't be brave or foolhardy. Being too radical can be a bad thing." Li Ju smiled, yes, you are not as cunning as Grandpa." Mr. Li snorted coldly, "Xiaju, you are too impatient. This girl usually looks lazy and doesn't care about anything, but when she's on the chessboard, she seems like a completely different person. Grandpa, you are so powerful that I have to make a desperate move. Then you still lose, what a bastard." Yes, Grandpa, you are so awesome." Mr. Li put down the chess pieces and suddenly said, "Yesterday, your uncle got news, saying that, he was coming back." Li Ju was stunned. Her uncle? The eldest son of the Li family, Li Hong's brother. Li Chen, who refused to inherit the Li family and was instead keen on traveling around the world. Speaking of Li Chen, he is Mr. Li's eldest son and his favorite son. He is a free and easygoing person, which is very inconsistent with his name. Mr. Li sighed, "That kid Ah Shen is good at everything, but his temper is too unstable." Even so, Li Ju did not miss the pride in his eyes when he mentioned Li Chen. After all, he has put a lot of effort into cultivating him since childhood, so he is naturally different from others. "Tell me, I'm already in my 40s, but I still like the behavior of young people. The last time I called, he said he was preparing to climb a mountain. With his old arms and legs, he is not afraid of breaking his back." Mr. Li, who was usually very taciturn, actually spoke endlessly when talking about Li Chen. Li Ju immediately interrupted what he was about to say. "Did the uncle say he would be back that day?" Mr. Li shook his head. "He said he was not sure, but he just had an approximate time and asked me to help him clean up the room." At this point, Mr. Li snorted coldly, "Humph. Just clean up the room when he says it is? Am I the father or is he the father? Wait until he comes back and clean it up yourself. I don't care about him." Li Ju's mouth twitched. "In addition, your two brothers will also come back." "Why? Normally no one comes back, so why do they all come when they want to come back?" Hearing her ask this, Mr. Li was so angry that his beard stood up and his eyes widened. Why else? It's not because of your unreliable uncle. This unfilial son has not been away from home for several years. He finally came back this time. If your two brothers don't come back to meet you, I'm afraid that unfilial son won't even know that he has two sons. Just now I was talking a lot. You are no longer a filial son? You have the right to say, don't guess what the old man is thinking. You can't even guess it? Li Ju pressed his forehead. It seemed that the old house would become lively soon. Grandfather? Can I move out? Mr. Li was puzzled. She was living well here, so why did she move out? Why? I'm afraid my uncle and cousins will be back in 2 days. I'm afraid I won't get used to it. What's not to get used to? We're all one family. I'm not used to it. There are so many people here, I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep well. Grandpa, you know, I can hit people if I don't sleep well. It won't look good if we take action then. After all, it's my uncle and cousin. I can live well at my friend's place. Why don't you just let me go out to live there? I will definitely not disturb your exchange of feelings. Oh my God. Made the list. Number 100 on the free list for girls. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 42. Chapter 42. The lady has difficulty getting up. She doesn't like living with too many people under the same roof. In the past, it was just Mr. Li. Suppose there are 3 more people. She was really afraid that they would disturb her when she slept. She lost control for a moment and beat them until their noses were bruised and their faces were swollen. Mr. Li suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in his heart and couldn't breathe. No. He refused sharply. He stretched out his hand and pointed at Li Ju tremblingly, and said word by word, "You stay here for me. If you dare to run away and not come back for a few days like you did a few days ago, don't you think I will interrupt you, leg? This dead girl. Can't you just stay at home? Why go out and have some fun?" Li Ju's eyelids twitched and he suddenly yawned. She blinked her eyes with a sleepy expression. "Oh, Grandpa, it's so late, I'm so sleepy, I'm going to bed first." Speaking, she immediately stood up and left. Dead girl. Mr. Li cursed secretly, but his eyes were filled with smiles. "Alas, my dear wife. Did you send Xiaju here because you saw me all alone in heaven? You are so considerate." Mr. Li's eyes were distant, as if he was reminiscing about the past. Suddenly, he opened the drawer under the coffee table and took out a photo. The photo is old and yellowed, and the edges are damaged. It seems like someone often takes out the photos and rubs them back and forth. In the center of the photo is a smiling woman, holding a newborn baby in her hands. If it hadn't been for that incident, it wouldn't be like this now. Shen refused to return to this home. Those 2 children didn't come back very often. Mr. Li stroked the baby in the photo with trembling hands, and his voice was choked. "You have committed an evil act. This is his granddaughter, Chen's biological daughter. But, there are no bones left." He watched helplessly as his granddaughter was killed but could do nothing. "Oh wife. He is useless." Li Ju finally returned to the embrace of her soft big bed after a few days. She sighed happily. "I thought absurdly in my heart that I would have to marry someone with this bed in the future." Li Ju's head was already feeling groggy after a tiring day. "If I hadn't squinted twice before." She would really fall asleep on the ground. "What's more, I came back and played a game of chess with Mr. Li. I am really exhausted." After a while, she made an appointment with Duke Zhou. The next morning, warm sunlight spreads across the entire bed through the glass windows. Li Ju vaguely felt a vicious dog biting and pulling at her quilt in her sleep. She punched him. Not only did the vicious dog not let go, it suddenly uttered human words. "Miss, get up." Li Ju. Joe's mother looked helplessly at Li Ju, who was huddled up on the bed. It was already 3 o'clock in the morning, but this ancestor still had no intention of getting up. She had already heated up breakfast, and it was just ready to eat when Li Ju got up. Ma Jo thought thoughtfully. No way. This Miss Li Ju's biggest hobby is sleeping. If you don't wake her up, she can just sleep all day. The kind who don't even eat. The old man said that this is not good for your health. So let them wake Li Ju up on time every day. Originally, this is nothing, it is their job. So each servant took turns to wake Li Ju up. But one day, they watched Li Ju half asleep beating the man who woke her up until her nose was bruised and her face was swollen. That person has suffered a psychological shadow since then. Even if Mr. Li gave her a large sum of money for mental damages, it could not make up for her frightened mind. Since then, the man refused to appear next to Li Ju when she was sleeping even to death. Even if it is normal, I will walk around Li Ju. From then on, the glorious and great task of waking up fell on her head. Because she is the oldest in the Li family and has great prestige. Even Mr. Li was very polite to her. So for this reason, Li Ju should give her some thin noodles. At least he won't do anything to her. But Joe's mother sighed. What kind of thin noodles? Her young lady has difficulty getting up. She has called it hundreds of times. But Li Ju remained unmoved. Sleep deeply. The chickens can't even wake up from their crows. She can guarantee that even if Mr. Li comes to wake her up now, she wouldn't even pay attention to it. Joe's mother didn't give up and called a few more times, Miss, get up quickly, it's getting late. In response to her, Li Ju covered her head with the quilt. Joe's mother. Miss, if you don't get up, the hot breakfast will get cold again. Li Ju turned over and turned his back to her. Joe's mother. Joe's mother began to sigh for the unknown number of times. Forget it, she'd better go out and heat up breakfast again and let the lady have it for lunch. Joe's mother did not disturb Li Ju anymore and quietly left. The world is finally quiet again. She also pulled out the tongue of the noisy vicious dog in the dream. There is no way to disturb her sleep anymore. Li Ju thought happily. However, buzz buzz. The phone vibrates like a nightmarish sound. Li Ju turned over. She can't hear. Buzz buzz. Li Ju covered his ears. She does not know. Buzz buzz. Li Ju continued to pretend to be dead. She. Buzz buzz. Li Ju, hum. She couldn't help but curse. Li Ju, I want to kill that person who calls and calls. I'm stupid. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Faye. Chapter 43. Chapter 43, You are ready for this beating. Who is looking for and dying? Li Ju swore that she wanted to kill someone. Still want to whip the corpse. I want to cut the body into pieces even more. She reached out to touch the phone. What she didn't expect was that she was tossing and turning on the bed just now, and at some point she rolled over to the edge of the bed. At this time, she turned to one side and lost her balance. Li Ju. MMPO. The next second. Bump. Ouch. Li Ju screamed in pain. The waste of labor and capital. Li Ju fell to the ground, including the quilt. That location is a coincidence. It happened to be the place where she smashed her cell phone to pieces. If there is a way, the way of heaven is good for reincarnation. Li Ju lay on the floor and looked at the ceiling. At the same time, the mobile phone was also held in her hand. Moreover, it was still vibrating arrogantly as if to demonstrate to her. Li Ju's knuckles turning white as she held the phone, resisting the urge to crush it, and answered the call. Her peach blossom eyes were half squinted, and her eyes were frighteningly violent. She gritted her teeth and squeezed out a few words through her teeth. You, the best, have a, very, important thing. Even through the phone, you can feel Li Ju's resentment about to burst out. Chi Mao Yi on the other end of the phone felt a chill going straight to the back of her neck. The man became tense. I wipe it? Ajiu shouldn't be up yet? Yeah, shall. Ajiu's wake-up energy is as powerful as a nuclear bomb explosion. It's over, her life is over. Chi Mao Yi swallowed her saliva and asked tentatively, Ajiu, are you up yet? Li Ju grinned at his teeth and made a squeaking sound. What do you mean? Chi Mao Yi covered her face, wanting to cry but without tears. Once, there was a precious opportunity in front of her. She turned a blind eye. I insisted on disturbing Li Ju's sleep at this time. Now, she regrets it? If I could add an appropriate adjective to this regret. That is. It doesn't hurt. However, no matter how indifferent she felt, she still had to stand on the edge of death and ask, Ajiu, are you free today? Li Ju took a deep breath and felt that the ancient power in her body couldn't bear it anymore. She smiled and said in an extremely gentle voice, I'm free. Chi Mao Yi trembled all over. She counted her fingers in her mind and suddenly felt that there would be a disaster if she went out today. When she was about to say sorry for disturbing her and hang up the phone, suddenly there was a faint sight behind him. Chi Mao Yi turned around and met the indifferent gaze of her third brother. Chi Mao Yi. She wiped away tears and didn't know what to say. This is the current situation. Knowing that if she continues to talk, it will end badly. But her third brother still gave her a hard push. Honest brother, no doubt. Well, I want to treat you to a meal. Oh. Li Ju has a rising sound at the end, which is clear and pleasant to the ear. But when it fell into Chi Mao Yi's ears, it was like a magic sound. She felt like she was a death row prisoner on the verge of execution. The death row prisoner refused to take it off, and continued to risk his life. You gave me the necklace, and I treated you to a meal in return. Chi Mao Yi. Ah. Chi Mao Yi's voice was trembling. Li Ju never called her by her full name. Once he did, it meant she is going to be beaten. As expected, she heard Li Ju say, we haven't competed for a long time. I heard that your third brother once trained you, so let me see how much you have improved over the years. It's fatal. With her three-legged cat skills, she can defeat a few gangsters. Sparring with Li Ju? She might as well kill herself. Chi Mao Yi is autistic. Li Ju rubbed her waist and stood up from the ground while holding onto the bed. Hands off his sore arms. When you just fell to the ground, your arms hit the ground first. It's numb now. There were also bursts of tingling pain in my forearms. You can tell without looking at it, it must be bruised. So, Li Ju, a man with strong force, never been injured, and a really irritable boss, bruised his arm because of a phone call. Very good. Chi Mao Yi. I declare. You will definitely receive this beating. Li Ju pressed the tip of her tongue against the roof of her mouth and asked, where can we eat? Chi Mao Yi, who was calmly pretending to be an ostrich on the other side of the phone, said dully, private room 703 of the Huading Hotel. Wait. Then he hung up the phone. Chi Mao Yi thinks those two words just now mean to let her wait and prepare to face death? Li Ju yawned, feeling that it was not a good feeling to have eye mucus still stuck on his face so early in the morning. So I went into the bathroom and planned to take a good wash. As soon as I looked up, I was shocked by my reflection in the mirror. There were red marks on half of his face, and there were drool marks on his mouth. His long hair was like a messy chicken coop, with a few tufts of hair sticking up. There are faint dark circles around the eyes. Because they were woken up, those beautiful peach blossom eyes are dark and full of gloom. The pajamas on her body slumped down, revealing a large area of dazzling snow-white skin and smooth and delicate shoulders, with boundless spring beauty. Any man can't help but feel his blood boiling with anger when he sees him. But seeing that miserable face, she will probably shrink back in fear. Tisk. Li Ju frowned and looked at his own image with disgust. How could she be so sloppy? Unbearable. 10 minutes later, Li Ju finally packed herself up and prepared to go out. As a result, I just opened the bedroom door. I heard a boom, followed by a blast of acrid dust. Li Ju. To be honest, Li Ju is probably the most unimaginable female protagonist, right? I'm sorry, Mr. Ju, face covering. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 44. Chapter 44. Do you have any opinions? Ah, miss, are you okay? A maid exclaimed. Miss, why did she come out suddenly? They didn't see it. It's over, it's over. With the young lady's temper, she won't beat them until they don't recognize their biological father, right? The maid imagined the scene and couldn't help but shrink her neck. Li Ju wiped a handful of ashes from her face and brought down a hand of foundation. Li Ju. She looked at the large wardrobe in front of her that took 2 people to lift, and asked, what is this for? Another maid replied, the old man asked me to tidy up the old man's room. This wardrobe is too old, so the old man said that we need to change it and let us carry this old one out. But this wardrobe is too heavy. The 2 of them couldn't carry it all the time, and everyone else was busy with their own work and couldn't find anyone to help. So they could only lift it for a while and put it down to rest for a while. Just like this, he finally carried it to the stairs, which was in front of Li Ju's bedroom door. Originally I planned to put it down and find a more labor-saving position to carry it downstairs. Unexpectedly, Li Ju opened the door as soon as she put it down, and the dust that was raised suddenly covered her face. Change your wardrobe. Li Ju sneered. Didn't he say last night that Li Chen should come back and take care of things himself? Even the furniture has been replaced now. This old man's thoughts are really elusive. The maid observed Li Ju's face and asked cautiously, Miss, are you okay? God knows why Li Ju suddenly opened the door. Just now she heard Zhou's mother and the old man saying that the young lady was not awake yet. Why did it happen suddenly? She is new here and has always heard that Miss Li Ju has a bad temper. She usually tries not to hang out in front of her. After all, she knows how to hit people. The maid was trembling in her heart when she thought of the rumors she had heard about Li Ju in the Li family these days. Li Ju glanced at her. She was pretty good looking, with a round face and big eyes. She had a pretty face and a small face as red as an apple. Looks like a bite. Visual animal. Li Ju's eyes softened a little, and his voice slowed down, it's okay, just wash your face later. Then he asked, what's your name? Miss, just call me Xiaoping. Not only does it look like an apple, but its name is also like an apple. Oh, little apple, do you need any help? Little Ping was stunned by Li Ju's sudden nickname. The next second, she heard Li Ju's affectionate address, and her cheeks felt a little hot. Now the whole person is more like a ripe apple. She nodded shyly. Then Li Ju suddenly took a step forward and grabbed the edge of the wardrobe with her fair and slender hands. In Xiaoping's suddenly dilated pupils, Li Ju's weak and boneless hands suddenly lifted the wardrobe that both of them struggled to lift. Hug him up. Xiaoping. Another maid, who are they? Why are they here? With a dull look on his face, he watched Li Ju carry the wardrobe downstairs without any effort, and then waved to them. The 2 people looked at each other and then went downstairs together. Xiaoping's feet were weak when she went downstairs. She never imagined that with such a beautiful face, she was obviously Li Ju, a kind of enchantress who brought disaster to the country. Why did you suddenly transform into King Kong Barbie? Where to put it next? Li Ju asked. Xiaoping didn't realize the meaning of her words, huh? Then before Li Ju could speak, she saw the maid beside her who had been shaken away, pointing to a place with stiff hands and feet, there. Xiaoping. Oh. Li Ju once again moved the wardrobe to the designated place effortlessly. Is it okay now? Xiaoping no longer knew what to say, so she could only stammer, okay, that's it. Li Ju nodded and suddenly approached her. Xiaoping was stunned for a moment, then saw Li Ju raise his hand and rub it on her head. Then turn around and leave. Xiaoping. Xiaoping finally came to her senses at this time, blankly glanced at the wardrobe placed there, and then looked at Li Ju's retreating back. The eyes gradually turned into heart shapes. Miss, you are so handsome and awesome. Why would you hit someone if you have a bad temper? It's all nonsense. It is clear that the lady in the world is the gentlest, okay. Who is it that actually spoke ill of the lady behind her back and ruined her reputation? Don't let her see it. Otherwise. At this time, the person standing next to her who was shaken away finally found his voice, should I wipe it? Xiaoping. Private room 703 of Huading Hotel. When Chi Mao Yi couldn't wait any longer, Li Ju finally pushed the door open and entered. Oh my Ajiu, you are finally here. Seeing Li Ju, Chi Mao Yi jumped up from her seat in excitement and rushed towards Li Ju. Li Ju ducked sideways. Chi Mao Yi almost fell to the ground with her head. She turned her head, her eyes full of resentment. Ajiu, why are you here so late? You know, she called her when she got up early in the morning without eating, and then her third brother dragged her here. She is really going to starve to death now? Li Ju looked at her coldly. Naturally, he would not tell her that before going out, he went back to take a shower and blow-dry his hair before going out. Do you have any opinion? This chapter can also be called, Cute and Frail Little Maid and Her King Kong Barbie Lady. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 45. Chapter 45. Why did he see it in the hands of another person? Chi Mao Yi shrank her neck. No. Li Ju snorted coldly and turned around to sit down, but found that there was another person in the box. Why is Third Master here too? Li Ju raised his eyebrows with surprise in his eyes. I didn't expect Qi Jinkai to appear here. Because he had to go to the company today, Qi Jinkai wore a well-tailored suit with his shirt buttoned to the last button, giving him a rather ascetic feel. He was sitting by the window, with the warm yellow sunlight shining on his shoulders and face, as holy as a Buddha lotus. Coupled with that cool and dignified aura and handsome face. It's simply suffocating. Hearing this, Qi Jinkai raised his eyes, his light gray pupils glowing with a faint light. I'll come over to eat. Li Ju felt that she didn't hear clearly. What? His dignified third master of the Qi family, the current leader of the Qi family, came here to make a living? Do you have enough time? Chi Mao Yi on the side looked a little unnatural. Li Ju raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this. She said. Why did this girl want to invite her to dinner for the first time? It took me a long time to do it, which is an excuse. Li Ju pulled out a chair and sat down with an expressionless face, and asked, Tell me, what does the third master want from me? Qi Jinkai handed the menu on the table to Li Ju. It was Wai Wei who suddenly asked you to have dinner this morning. It's a gift in return for the necklace you gave her last time. I'm just here for breakfast, you can ignore me. Li Ju chuckled lightly, really? If I remember correctly, the seats in Huading are very tight. Such a large box must be reserved in advance. Do you think I am a fool? Chi Mao Yi suddenly thought of inviting her to dinner? He. Qi Jinkai frowned, that's not what I meant. Li Ju flipped through the menu and ordered some of the most expensive dishes. No embarrassment at all. Handed the menu to the waiter, turned to look at Chi Jinkai. Speak directly if you have something to say. Third master doesn't seem to be a nagging person. Hearing her impatient words, Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows. Miss Li knows me well. Intuition. Chi Jinkai's thin lips, which were tightly pursed, curled up slightly. He glanced at Chi Maoyi lightly, and the latter immediately understood. Chi Maoyi said very wisely, "Ajiu, let me go to the bathroom first." After saying that, she quickly exited the box. There were only 2 people left in the box. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Li Ju's expression suddenly became languid. He leaned lazily on the chair and looked at the man opposite. "Can we talk now?" She was very curious about what happened and actually sent Chi Maoyi away. Chi Jinkai was not in a hurry and stretched out his hand to pour a cup of tea for Li Ju. His slender fingers were like jade under the sunlight. Li Ju was not polite. She happened to be thirsty too, so she took it and drank it all in one gulp. The 2 of them had a good understanding of each other, one pouring and the other drinking. If others see it, they may be shocked. Chi Sanyi, the most distinguished person in the imperial capital, actually pours tea? That man actually dared to drink? It's simply a fantasy. However, both of these 2 people had indifferent expressions, and there was nothing strange about them. Looking at Li Ju's bold gesture, Chi Jinkai's thin lips twitched slightly. "Miss Li, this is the best puert if you drink it like this, you may not be able to taste it." Li Ju stared at the teacup in his hand and wondered, "Really? I can't tell the difference between this and ordinary puer. Besides, aren't they all for drinking? Since they are for drinking, they are all used to quench thirst." Li Ju thinks there is not much difference between tea and other drinks. In her eyes, these things have the same effect as plain water. They are all used to quench thirst. There's nothing wrong with it if you say that. After drinking a cup of tea, Li Ju felt that it was not very thirsty, so she poured herself another cup. This time, she didn't have any milk to drink, she just drank sip after sip. "Now is not the time to discuss tea," Li Ju reminded him loudly. Chi Jinkai finally got to the point. Miss Li spent a lot of money to buy the necklace and gave it directly to Wai Wei without blinking an eye. She was really generous. Li Ju raised his eyebrows. "So what does the third master want to say?" Chi Jinkai took a sip of tea and said calmly, "Miss Li's purple gold card really surprised me." He put down the teacup. The teacup collided with the table, making a crisp sound that was pleasant to the ears. "But I'm curious, where did Miss Li's purple gold card come from?" The voice is indifferent, but it has the aura of a superior person. Although it was not a questioning tone, it still felt oppressive. At this point, Li Ju understood the reason why Chi Jinkai met her. It took him a long time just because her purple gold card made him suspicious. Similarly, it is indeed very suspicious for an illegitimate daughter to take out a purple gold card that even the head of the Li family cannot have. But Li Ju's expression did not change at all, but his voice was cold and emotionless. The third master seems to be a little nosy when he asks this. Chi Jinkai was not annoyed when she said this. "It's really none of my business. In the final analysis, this is just a matter between you and Wai Wei, but dash." Chi Jinkai stretched out his fingers and tapped the table gently, his light gray eyes gradually turning dark. He said word by word, "Miss Li, please explain to me. Why have I seen this purple gold card in another person's hand before? Thank you all for your votes and rewards, I love you, carrot carrot." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 46. Chapter 46, falling off the horse. Hearing this, Li Ju frowned. Seen it on another person's hand? This is impossible. Her things will never be touched by others. If you touch, she will just throw it away. That's right. Her possessiveness is outrageous. How can Mr. San be so sure that the purple gold card you have seen is mine? All purple gold cards are the same. Li Ju denied what Qi Jinkai said almost instantly. However, the corners of Qi Jinkai's mouth raised, and his lips slowly curved, revealing an intoxicating smile. Li Ju was stunned for a moment. Qi Jinkai is usually cold and indifferent, with no other expression on his face. Now there is a short-lived smile. It is simply captivating and sultry. The rumors are untrue. This is not a cold fairy, he is obviously a fairy who only deceives people. Li Ju calmed down, his eyes were clear, and the obsession just now was gone in an instant. This smile. It seems a little familiar. Although the purple gold cards all look the same, the identity of the card holder is different. Li Ju squinted his eyes, as if his eyes were tempered with ice, sharp and dangerous. Are you investigating me? Qi Jinkai lowered his eyes, lowered the curve of his lips, suppressed his smile, and looked at Li Ju with a deep look. I'm investigating you because I think you are similar to someone I know, and she also happens to have a purple gold card in her hand. He leaned forward slightly, with an incomprehensible look in his eyes, and said in a deep voice, Miss Li, I don't believe this is a coincidence. Li Ju did not accept his argument. Then, you investigate me just because of your suspicion? Do you think I can accept it? Li Ju's originally pure peach blossom eyes were now extremely cold, the laziness in his eyebrows had disappeared, and the aura around him became increasingly dangerous. The whole figure looks like a wild beast ready to go. Qi Jinkai had no doubt that this man would pounce on him and give him a fatal blow in the next second. I have never seen Li Ju like this before. Qi Jinkai lowered his eyes. Is this her true face? In just a moment, Li Ju controlled his violent temper. She rarely lets her breath show, and has always controlled it very well over the years. Unexpectedly, I failed today. But this is not surprising. She hates people prying into her affairs at will. Even if he couldn't find anything, she would still feel very uncomfortable. Li Ju calmed down and looked at Qi Jinkai again, with a cold look in his eyes. You just said that I am similar to someone you know, but I am not her. Please don't get it wrong. How are you sure I'm wrong? You mean, I'm that person? Li Ju seemed to have heard the funniest joke, and his words were full of ridicule. Qi Sanyi, except for the auction last night, I have never seen you before. Qi Jinkai didn't take her ridicule seriously, but suddenly asked, have you been to estate 4 years ago? Certainly. Li Ju's voice suddenly got stuck in his throat and he was speechless. I did go to estate 4 years ago. Li Ju lowered his eyes. But she was certain that she had never seen Qi Jinkai. So what if I've been there, so what if I haven't been there? Seeing her like this, Qi Jinkai raised his thin lips slightly and said slowly, 4 years ago, a batch of my goods was robbed in estate. It was a batch of new medicines. Li Ju's eyes moved slightly, as if he suddenly remembered something, and he suddenly looked at Qi Jinkai. That batch of new medicines can enhance human body functions if they are used by unscrupulous people in war. The consequences will be disastrous. New pharmaceuticals enhance body functions. This is absolutely top secret. Qi Jinkai said it so blatantly. I don't care at all whether Li Ju will be leaked. Qi Jinkai chuckled, because of the importance of the medicine, I personally went to estate back then, intending to take back that batch of goods. The smile on Li Ju's face froze, and she looked at Qi Jinkai blankly. Unexpectedly, the opponent was already prepared. I was accidentally seriously injured and fled into a nearby hot spring in a panic. Li Ju's face was stiff. She thought she could already guess what Qi Jinkai said next. But what I didn't expect was that there was someone in the hot spring. I wanted to hold her hostage, but that person was not as strong as me. I was injured, and I was defeated by her in a short time. Li Ju's face can already be described as ugly. She seems. Vaguely. I vaguely remembered the crazy things I had done. That woman. Chi Jinkai emphasized his tone. She teased me, blackmailed me, and took away all the money I had. When the group of people who were chasing me came in to search, she stepped my foot into the water, and finally. The next words were not finished, but both of them knew what happened next. He was so seriously injured that he fainted after not being underwater for long. Li Ju picked him up at the last second. After groping around on his body, he took away the new medicine he had just snatched back. After. She just left Chi Jinkai there, completely forgetting that he was seriously injured. If Lu Qingran and the others hadn't arrived in time, he would have bled to death. Thinking of this, Li Ju felt extremely embarrassed. She never expected that Chi Jinkai would be the unlucky guy back then. Chi Jinkai's light gray phoenix eyes stared straight at Li Ju, their eyes as deep and thick as ink. Li Ju's expression said everything. There will be no need to test again. He spoke, his tone was full of determination, and he said word by word, "Long time no see. Moju. Originally I didn't want to lose the horse so early, but I think their relationship can grow faster after losing one layer of the horse. Anyway, Mr. Ju has many vests, so it doesn't matter if one of them falls off." End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 47. Chapter 47. In a word, no way. Li Ju. Hearing this name, the corner of Li Ju's mouth twitched. That was the name she used when she went to Continent S. According to Chi Jinkai's ability, he must have checked her thoroughly back then, so it's not surprising to know this name. She laughed dryly, trying to cover up her embarrassment. Haha, what a coincidence. God knows that the man she took advantage of back then was actually Chi Jinkai. The sudden fall of her horse caused her little pain. Especially when she thinks about how she almost tricked this man to death. But Li Ju is very curious. At that time, everyone was wearing human skin masks, and she deliberately pretended to be older. How did he come to suspect her? Is it possible that this person has a fiery eye? How did Li Ju know that what she did back then could be said to be Chi Jinkai's biggest failure in his life? Her appearance, figure, and movements are all deeply engraved in his mind, and he will never forget her in his life. Chi Jinkai sneered, "Unfortunately, I have been looking for you for 4 years. Li Ju. You really have never forgotten me. Having been looking for me for 4 years and still not giving up, this person has great endurance." Chi Jinkai picked up the teacup, took a sip, and returned to his previous cold look. "Tell me, how can you compensate me?" A question mark slowly appeared on Li Ju's forehead, and he asked puzzledly, "What should I pay for?" "My loss." Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows slightly. "Back then you took away all my money and all valuable things, as well as medicines that can't be measured in money. How do you plan to compensate me?" After a long time, Li Ju said softly, "Is it okay if I don't pay compensation?" As soon as he finished speaking, the air suddenly became quiet. Li Ju swallowed. Watching Chi Jinkai's overwhelming aura rising steadily, his eyes became more and more dangerous and cold. Finally, he stood up directly. Li Ju was startled. She had a guilty conscience after doing something wrong. She was not frightened, but she actually hid back unconsciously. She frowned, very dissatisfied with the subconscious reaction. While she was distracted, Chi Jinkai had slowly walked up to her. Step by step. "Stand still." Li Ju only felt a shadow falling above his head. Chi Jinkai leaned forward slightly, stretched out his arms, and put his hands on the back of Li Ju's chair. His huge body enveloped her. From a distance, It looks like Chi Jinkai is holding Li Ju in his arms. Li Ju was trapped in a small and cramped space by Chi Jinkai, and it was difficult to breathe. The tip of the nose is filled with a hint of sandalwood. Li Ju was a little surprised. Sandalwood. She sniffed subconsciously and finally smelled the mint scent lingering in the sandalwood. Perhaps the sandalwood scent on the suit is too strong, covering up the original mint smell. Li Ju was suddenly startled. Wrong. Is now the time to think about this? She raised her head and looked at the standard chair-dong posture in front of her, her eyebrows twitching. Why is this posture so weird? Also, didn't he say that he would never get too close to a woman? So what is the situation now? She is not a woman? No compensation. The two of them were very close. When he opened his mouth, his warm breath sprayed on her face, tickling her face and carrying a refreshing smell. Li Ju stiffened. She was not used to getting too close to people, especially the opposite sex. She wanted to push Chi Jinkai away, but the angle he found was extremely tricky. It is not easy to act at the moment. But she still refused to give in. Her clear peach blossom eyes met his phoenix eyes, her gaze was firm. Yes, no compensation. Such a close distance, the breathing is similar. He could even count Li Ju's thick and long eyelashes. It is clear that the mole at the end of her right eye is brown. Chi Jinkai raised his eyebrows. Oh. Although I robbed your things, my hot spring club was bombed because of you. Everyone inside died, and even I almost didn't escape. That time, we really suffered heavy losses. The money she got from Chi Jinkai was simply not enough to cover her losses. He had the nerve to ask for compensation from her. She hasn't asked him for money yet. Chi Jinkai was slightly surprised. Does the hot spring club belong to you? Nonsense. Okay, let's not talk about money. Where is my medicine? Through. Chi Jinkai's forehead jumped, and there were some black lines. Those potions were developed at a huge cost by him, and she threw them away. Li Ju raised his head slightly, getting closer to him, and opened his red lips lightly. Don't ask me where I threw it. I don't remember what happened so long ago. Chi Jinkai. He suddenly straightened up and looked at Li Ju condescendingly, his phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. Do you think I will believe it? The effect of that potion is enough to drive people crazy. Will she throw it away easily? Li Ju lazily fell back and leaned directly on the chair, pretending to be like, you believe it or not. Whatever you think, I didn't know that thing was so powerful at the time. That's weird. Wouldn't she know? He. She had already had the ingredients of the potion tested. Naturally knows what it does. But so what? Not to mention that she had already divided it into several portions for use. Simply speaking, now that the thing is in her hands, she will never give it back. Then you have to pay for it? I spent a lot of money to develop the potion, but you threw it away. You have to pay for it? No. Want a potion? Dream. Want money? Daydreaming. In a word, no way. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 48. Chapter 48. You are dead. Chi Jinkai almost laughed out of anger at her. You're robbing me of my money, taking my stuff, and you're not going to give me back or compensate me, and you're still pretty righteous about it. Li Ju frowned, a little unhappy. What do you mean by robbing your money? Can you put it in a nicer way? Well, it's a pit. Li Ju choked. Although she did cheat him out of his money, she still saved him. Didn't I also save you from falling into the hands of those who were chasing you? Chi Jinkai snorted coldly. Yes, I didn't die in the hands of those people, but I almost died under your feet. Li Ju looked embarrassed. It was also forced by the situation at that time. I almost drowned there. Isn't he also dead? She fished him out just in time. Chi Jinkai's eyes were filled with dark light, staring at her coldly and dangerously. According to her opinion, it's okay if she doesn't die. He felt that the cold and indifferent temper he had developed over the years had all been fed to the dogs. Ah! He sneered, and the temperature of the surrounding air dropped to the extreme. Yes, I'm not dead. You left me there. If Liu Qinggran hadn't found me before I took my last breath, I would have gone to see the Lord of Hell. Li Ju. Well, she admitted, she was a little too much. She took advantage of the man's danger, defrauded him of his money, took away his things, and finally left him to fend for himself. Let this third master Chi, the man most wanted to sleep with all the women in the capital, and the indestructible flower of the high mountains, have a severe taste of embarrassment. He was dragged down from the sky like a god, fell to the ground, and stepped on his feet. Tisk. She is guilty. But. So what? Bite me if you can. Li Ju had no psychological burden for what she had done, and she wanted to do it again. After all. She raised her eyes and glanced at Chi Jinkai, then put her hand on her chin. It's quite interesting to watch the change of face of a cold-blooded man. Li Ju thought about it and said, then, what do you want from me? Loss of money. No way. The whole day was spent chatting to death again. Li Ju sighed and said, Third Master, you are also the richest man in the imperial capital, so you can always lower your tone in advance, right? I am a businessman. The implication is that he is a businessman who focuses on profit. Li Ju rolled his eyes and cursed Chi Jinkai in his heart. Tch, vulgar. Unconsciously, she spoke out what was on her mind. Unexpectedly, Chi Jinkai actually followed her words. Well, I'm vulgar, so I'll trouble the noble Miss Li to compensate for my losses. In addition to the money and medicine you took away at the time, you also have to compensate me for mental damage and medical expenses. After saying that, he extended a hand to Li Ju. The meaning in my eyes is to pay back the money quickly. Li Ju's forehead slid down with several black lines. Go to with the mental damages fee. Go to with the medical expenses. Chi Jinkai, can you please give me a little face? She took a deep breath and said, Third Master, you can't be too shameless. It's a prize, but it's not as shameless as Miss Li. Is it okay if she wants to kill someone? If I had known earlier, I should have handed him over to those who were chasing him. How come you didn't know this person was so shameless and without limits before? He too. It's because he hid it too deeply. What kind of flower on the high mountain, what kind of indifferent fairy? This is a black lotus. Are those women in imperial capital clamoring to marry him blind? Li Ju suppressed his anger, then what do you want? Simple. When Chi Maoyi came back from the bathroom, she felt that something was not right about the atmosphere. The box was filled with dead silence. Li Ju and Chi Jinkai said nothing. One was drinking tea quietly, and the other was playing with his mobile phone with his head down. No one cares about anyone. And she smelled a faint smell of gunpowder when she came in? Chi Maoyi. Shouldn't it be adultery? That's not normal. Chi Maoyi's starry eyes wandered back and forth between Li Ju and Chi Jinkai. She went to the bathroom and stayed there for so long. My legs are numb. Why do these two people seem to be making no progress at all? The food is on the table, but no one touches it. Chi Maoyi sat next to Li Ju with deep doubts, nudged Li Ju with her elbow, and asked in a low voice, Ajiu, what's going on with you? Li Ju glanced at her sideways. That look was cold and dangerous, sending chills down her spine. So, what happened? Who will tell her? I feel very panicked when you two don't talk. Originally, she was thinking of letting the third brother and Ajiu have a good exchange of feelings. In this case, Ajiu might be relieved of her anger and not care about disturbing her to sleep. Why do you feel like you messed up now? Chi Maoyi desperately looked at Chi Jinkai, seeking answers. Who knows that Li Ju is now furious, let alone calm down. Especially when she saw Chi Maoyi winking at Chi Jinkai. Very good. Li Ju secretly gritted her silver teeth. Chi Maoyi, you girl. He was eating everything inside and out, and his elbows were turned outward. Help your shameless third brother deceive her. It was simply a waste of all the years he had been so kind to her. Now she is actually helping outsiders exploit her. Do you know that she just signed an unequal treaty with the Black Lotus with a human face and a beast's heart, which was humiliating the country? Why are you still sitting next to the employer and winking at him? Exceptionally good. Chi Maoyi. You are not destined to be beaten. You are dead. Chi Maoyi probably didn't expect that she just wanted Li Ju and Chi Jinkai to exchange feelings, but ended up selling Li Ju ha 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 ha. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Faye. Chapter 49. Chapter 49, Be My Secretary, term to be determined. The time goes back a few minutes. So you are not willing to lose money no matter what, right? That's right. Back then, her hot spring club was bombed for no apparent reason, and she still hadn't asked him to pay for it. Okay, let's work to pay off the debt. Chi Jinkai's tone was calm, but he said something shocking. Several huge question marks slowly appeared on Li Ju's delicate face. What did he say? What work can be done to pay off the debt? When did she go into debt? Chi Jinkai, I tell you not to go too far. Although she does feel a little guilty about what happened back then. But that doesn't mean you can challenge my bottom line again and again. The Guild of Labor and Management does not allow you to do whatever you want. Be careful with labor and capital will immediately remind you of the feeling of excessive blood loss back then. However, Chi Jinkai did not hear her slander. I saw this man slowly speaking, be my secretary. Li Ju pretended to be confused seriously, who is your secretary? Why should I be him? Chi Jinkai's fingers suddenly paused, his cold expression cracked slightly, and his face was rarely stained with a bit of astonishment. However, it is only fleeting. He looked at Li Ju and said, I mean to be my secretary. The term is to be determined. As the last few words fell, Li Ju finally became furious. She jumped up and slapped her hand on the table, making a muffled sound. The table trembled pitifully. What did you say? The deadline is to be determined? Chi Jinkai, don't go too far. Why should labor and management give you a long-term job? She is the executive boss behind the scenes at MZ. She has a net worth of over 100 million and is ranked among the top 3 richest people in the world. She usually takes orders worth hundreds of millions. Be a secretary for Chi Jinkai? The repayment period is to be determined? What is the difference between this and a deed of betrayal? Do you know how much she earns per hour? What are you thinking about, the earth-shattering supergiant Peach? Li Ju put his hands on the table, narrowed his eyes and looked at Chi Jinkai angrily. The surrounding momentum was so fierce that it almost solidified. Hands are clenched, pressing the knuckles to make a clicking sound. Anyone with eyesight knows that she wants to beat someone up. Li Ju quietly looked around the box. There is a camera. If she killed people and dumped their bodies, it would be inconvenient to deal with the aftermath. But her hands were so itchy that she couldn't help but want to kill him. No, no, no. In the Empire, murder was illegal. Can't come out in the open. Li Ju took a few deep breaths before suppressing the thoughts she just had. You can't kill someone now, the suspicion is too high. If Chi Jinkai died here, I would know with my toes that she did it. Have to find a good time to click him again. For example, in the dead of night. For example, in a dark corner. Another example is in countries that are in raging war. As long as she wants, she can always find a resting place for Chi Jinkai that suits her. Just when Li Ju secretly wanted to murder Chi Jinkai, he asked, "You're not happy?" It seemed as if he didn't feel Li Ju's murderous intention. Nonsense. Would you like it if it were you? If I ask you, the head of the Chi family and the CEO of SR, to wash her feet, will you come? Li Ju sneered. If Chi Jinkai can wash her feet, she can give him a child. Chi Jinkai frowned, looking a little confused. That would be troublesome. Just when Li Ju wanted to scold him and let him experience the education of Master Ju's love, so that he would never dare to think wildly again. Chi Jinkai brought the problem back to the beginning. Then, I have no choice but to lose money. Li Ju. Li Ju, I'll knock you MMP. Li Ju, who finally couldn't hold back his outburst, proudly took out the purple gold card from his pocket and slammed it on the table. If you lose money, you lose money. Labor and capital have plenty of money. As a result, Chi Jinkai just glanced at it lightly and said, "Not enough." Not enough? A purple gold card that can buy a Chi family is not enough for you? Is it possible that you are the richest man in the world? Is he worth so much? A purple gold card is not enough to compensate? She suppressed her anger and her body trembled slightly. Then how much do you want? 10 purple gold cards. Li Ju struggled to squeeze out 3 words through her teeth. No, no, no. She feels that one can be shameless as a person, but one cannot be so shameless. 10 purple gold cards. Why doesn't he go to heaven? There are probably not even 10 purple gold cards in the world. Okay. Li Ju tensed the last rational chord in his head and tried to reason with him. You asked me to pay for it, but I haven't asked you to pay for my hot spring club yet. Because of him, not even a scrap of her hot spring club was left. Do you know how much that is? She has not asked for compensation yet. But Li Ju didn't expect that Chi Jinkai today would refresh all her previous knowledge of him. Then she watched as Chi Jinkai made an action that made her unable to control her ancient power anymore. He stretched out his slender fingers to twist the purple card on the table that she had just thrown out so boldly, and then threw it to her again. Purple gold clattered down in front of her. This card is enough to pay for your club. Li Ju. Li Ju. Li Ju. The string called reason in Li Ju's head was broken. Chi, Jing, Ci. 3 words, extremely dangerous. Immediately afterwards, Li Ju rushed towards Chi Jinkai like an arrow from a string. Then, Li Ju felt Chi Jinkai like a heavy fist. Okay, the third master was beaten. Actually, I want to ask, Mr. Mao, why you can't keep your aloof persona, but why do you want to provoke others to beat you? Third master, what if someone extorted you while you were seriously injured, took away all the valuable things you had on you, pushed you under the water and choked on her bath water several times, and finally agreed to save you but ended up killing you? What would you do if you left it alone? Me, Am. End of this chapter. She always loves to sleep. Author, Guy and Fei. Chapter 50. Chapter 50. Aren't you often absent from school? In the end, Li Ju agreed to this unequal treaty. Do not ask. The question is, Chi Jinkai demanded sky-high compensation for the beating just now. Certainly. It's not that she really doesn't have money to compensate Chi Jinkai. Instead, her money can't be touched now. She only has the black card and the purple gold card. Everything else is. Damn it. Li Ju secretly grinned at his teeth. I regretted so much why I robbed him out of hand and got into such trouble. As a result, he has now signed a contract of betrayal that will disgrace his power and humiliate his country. Personal secretary. Still responsible for daily life? Nonsense. Li Ju stared at Chi Jinkai with gloomy eyes, and the chopsticks in his hands almost poked the buns on the plate into sieves. Ajiu, if you poke it further, the bun will be rotten. Chi Maoi had porridge in her mouth and her speech was a little slurred. My pleasure. Chi Maoi's mouth twitched. Was it the way she opened her eyes that was wrong? For some reason, she just went to the bathroom. Why did Ajiu become so irritable after coming back? Have you eaten gunpowder? Chi Maoi handed the porridge in front of her to Li Ju flatteringly. Ajiu, try it, this bowl of porridge is so delicious. Joke. Ajiu is in a bad mood. She will definitely be the unlucky one later. Must please her. Li Ju turned a blind eye, picked up the fried dough sticks on the side, and asked doubtfully, I don't know, when did Huading provide breakfast service? Or Chinese style? Chi Maoi saw that Li Ju refused to drink, so based on the principle of not wasting, she took it back and drank it herself. She took a sip of the fragrant porridge, narrowed her eyes with satisfaction, and said, oh, Huading is a property of senior. So, making breakfast or something is not a problem. Ajiu, don't mention it, I didn't expect that a 5-star hotel like Huading would make such a good breakfast. Li Ju's mouth twitched when he heard this, so, you are treating Huading as a canteen. Oh, don't say it so harshly, this is called making the best use of everything. If Huading's chef loses his job in the future, if he sets up a breakfast shop, it will definitely become a big hit. Chi Maoi finished a large bowl of porridge in a few seconds. She was even thinking about bringing Huading's chef back to be her personal chef. But it's just a thought. If that's really the case, she can't afford the salary. It is not worthwhile to deprive oneself for the sake of stuttering. Chi Jinkai was already full. He picked up a napkin and wiped his hands, then said to Li Ju, let's go. Ifir. She hasn't eaten enough yet. I'm going to be late soon. SR's clock-in time for work is 8 o'clock, and it's already 7:50 now. Go again tomorrow. He just said that she would be his secretary, but he did not say when she would start. It's a day as long as it lasts. No. Chi Jinkai stood up, took the coat on the side with his long arms, walked up to Li Ju, and grabbed her back collar. Carry her up and leave. Li Ju didn't want to say anything anymore. She felt that she was no longer the same person as before. In the past, if someone dared to grab her collar, she would definitely let that person die on the spot. But now, not only did she not want to hit anyone, but she could also cross her chest with her hands calmly. There is no other way but to blame Chi Jinkai for being too shameless. If she beat him, he might have to ask for some compensation from her. Huh, third brother, where are you going? Chi Maoi asked. She looked at Chi Jinkai and then at Li Ju, feeling confused. Why does she always feel like she's missing something? Chi Maoi, I feel like a little fool. At the entrance of the hotel, Jing Ai followed Chi Jinkai's instructions and parked the car at the door and waited. Then he saw the cold and dignified third master of his family walking over holding a man's collar. Jing Ai rubbed his eyes to confirm that this was not an illusion. Just when Chi Jinkai was about to drag Li Ju into the car, Li Ju broke free from his restraint. She turned around and glared at Chi Jinkai. I suddenly remembered that I still have to go to school and can't be your secretary. Jing Ai listened, his eyes almost popping out of his head. The first reaction is that I heard it wrong. How could I let a woman be my secretary? The second reaction was to twitch the corner of his mouth and look at Li Ju complicatedly. That is the chief secretary of the SR president. Please vote, .. End of this chapter.